Nintendo got my money again. I'm Bobby, this is Shiny Brain, and today we are talking about Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 on the Switch and Switch 2. So, yes, this is a kind of cross platform release. You don't need a Switch 2 for all of the upgrades that these games bring. But you might want one, and we're going to get into that here in a sec. This video is really just about Mario Galaxy 1 because, obviously the spirit of these games, from 2007 are intact. They're fun. They're great. If you haven't played them, if you're new to these, absolutely, this is not a question. Pick them up. This video is if you're like me and you bought the 3D All-Stars game a few years ago, should you pony up for this new version of Mario Galaxy 1, or are you set? I think you're set, but it's a more annoying question than it should be. So let's get into it. So if you're new to these games, a quick backstory. Mario Galaxy 1 came out in 2007 for the Wii. I remember this game. It was a ton of fun, and it was just a really great 3D Mario game. Some people think, it's up there with its sequel, Mario Galaxy 2 and Mario Odyssey, and you'll see those three games, depending on the person, jockey for position for best 3D Mario of all time. So it's an absolute endorsement to go play that game. But like a lot of Wii games, those controls are weird and it got trapped on there. And so in 2020, as part of Mario's anniversary, Nintendo released the infamous Mario 3D All-Stars pack. And if you're not familiar, this was Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, and Mario Galaxy 1 ROMs that were on one cartridge or download, and Nintendo said this is a limited run release. We are not making any more of them, so if you want it, you better buy it now or pay $120 for it in 2025 on GameStop. Those are your choices. I bought it digitally, and the real gem of that was Sunshine, I think. Being able to play that again. It's the first time that's been re-released and the only time that's been re-released. So that was really cool. But getting back to Mario Galaxy, you have to make certain changes with any Wii game in order to get them to work on whatever hardware you're playing on. So the change here is that the Joy-Con becomes the Wii remote. And if you've played the Skyward Sword, Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword remake, you know that that's hit or miss. It's possible, but it's just not as precise as when you had, an IR sensor and an IR blaster basically working together, so that the remote could know where it is. With this new game and with any game that uses the Wii or the Switch Joy-Con instead of that setup, where it's just relying on basically gyroscope motion controls, it loses where it is a lot. You end up pressing the right trigger in this case to recenter it, and that works, and it's like becomes second nature after a few minutes. But it's not perfect, and you will have to futz with it. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So in that 3D All-Stars version, it was essentially just a ROM with some updated logos so that the game was aware, hey, you're playing this on a Switch, it's not a Wii, there's do this to recenter your remote, the icons are a little different and all that, but that was basically the end of what they did. There was a little bit of upraising. I think the assets are a little bit better, but there's jagged edges that will slit your throat. It's all over the place in terms of that. So you live with that. And I will say that the newer version that they just put out as part of Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 looks better. It does. And I was not expecting it to, but credit to Nintendo. They went in and they made it cleaner. And if you have a Switch 2 and you have a 4K TV, you could play this at up to 4K. You're splitting hairs a bit when you do that, really, it's not like so mind blowing that I'm telling Switch 1 owners, like, go out and buy a Switch 2 just to upgrade this. But if you do have a Switch 2, it is nice to see. If you have a Switch 1, this version obviously maxes out at 1080p, but you get the same, texture bumps, and you get the same, improvements that the Switch 2 owners get. You just don't get the same resolution. The other upgrades you're getting from the Mario All-Stars version, if you plunk down the money for this one, is some better menus. They're more optimized for button controls as opposed to, that 3D All-Stars version really did want you to use the Switch Joy-Con and just like it was a Wii remote back in the day, and you would point it at the screen and hit A, point it at the screen, hit A. There was no D-pad functionality with that. So they've cleaned that up a little bit, and that's kind of it. So that brings me to the price. So Nintendo wants $70 for both of these games, Galaxy 1 and 2, or $40 a la carte, which I think is a bit of an olive branch to people like me who bought Mario All-Stars in 2020. And they're like, look, you may not want to buy Mario Galaxy 1 again, if all we're talking about here is some visual polish and, a menu upgrade. So maybe you don't have to. And I appreciate that. Obviously I'm going to sit here and, raise my fist to the cloud and say, you could have given us the upgrade that you're giving to all of the people that buy this game fresh. You could have patched in the upgrades to that version of the game on Mario 3D All-Stars, but I understand the world we live in is not that world. So, or the galaxy we live in is not that galaxy. Clever. So would I recommend you spend the full $70 and get both of these games? No. I just can't tell you that it makes that big of a difference. Especially if you've already played it on the 3D All-Stars pack, there's just not enough new here, for me to recommend that you spend another, $30 to make the Galaxy 2 bundle complete. I think Nintendo, I'll give them some props for what they did in giving you the option to only buy Galaxy 2. A lot of when Mario All-Stars came out in 2020, that's what we were all asking for, is hey, where's Galaxy 2? Why wasn't this part of this? And are you planning to sell it? And it's Nintendo. Of course, they're eventually going to sell it way later than you want to and for way more than you want to. But here it is. So I would recommend, if you have Mario 3D All-Stars already, I would skip Mario Galaxy 1 and just buy Mario Galaxy 2. Those jagged edges are not going to keep you from enjoying the game. It really is, hard to distinguish. It doesn't smack you over the head, the visual upgrades. I see them, I appreciate them, but I played them both back to back last night, and it's not $40 difference. It's not $30 difference. I wish there was some kind of cheaper upgrade path, like $10, layup, slam dunk, do it. Not for 30 or 40 though. It's just, we're not talking about that kind of thing. And Nintendo's not threatening to delist this. So if someday say you win the lottery for $40 and you're like, man, I really wish I got that Mario Galaxy update, sure. But it's Nintendo. It's expensive to be a Nintendo fan in 2025, and this is not where I would put my money. What do you think? I want to hear more from you. So tell me in the comments, are you planning to get both of these if you have Mario 3D All-Stars, or are you just going to get Galaxy 2 and, enjoy what you already have with Galaxy 1 on that collection? Thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, please hit the like and subscribe button. It means a lot, and I will see you in the comments.